I'm not a politician, I'm not an activist. And in my capacity, I can only do what I can through music and art. It's a human catastrophe, a failure, a human failure to see what's happening. I have the Azerbaijani, the Turkish in me. I have the Eastern, the Western, the different influences. I love Turkish tea, yeah. And remember the wisdom that came to us that when you're angry, what should you do? Make ablution, abdest, right? Calm down, then lie down.
Welcome here. We are so happy to have you here in Turkey, Istanbul. And we know that you love Istanbul so much too. But the main question is, why did you choose Istanbul to promote your new album? Why is it here?
Turkey is very close to my heart. Turkish people are very dear to my heart, and I think it's a relationship that's obvious. It's clear. Also, I'm a mixture of identities. Yes. I have my British identity, it's my one passport, my British passport, but I'm also, I have the Azerbaijani, the Turkish in me. I have the Eastern, the Western, the different influences. I grew up with different influences, and no other country exhibits that or embodies those ideas than Turkey. So that's why I feel particularly comfortable here, and also to launch the album. Yeah, it's a preview of the album. So it's we're previewing the pieces. I think it's 7 out of 9. We'll know on the night. It's not all of the pieces, but yeah. So half of it is existing pieces like Nesimi, and the other half, or Ben Bu Cahana Sığmazam, and the other half are pieces from Ecstasy.
We have Asia and Europe in here, so probably yes. You felt better in here.
Exactly.
And we feel that your music combines Eastern and Western influences. And how do you strike this balance?
The word balance is the important word here. The balance comes from reverence. So for me, traditional music is not a music to listen to; it's a music to experience. And I always approach this sound, this music, from the point of view of there's a sacred component to it. Whenever I perform with my team, any of our When Paths Meet concerts, for example, we did 3 of them so far. There's always this sense, you don't find people smiling on stage. It's not because they don't want to smile, it's because they're in a state of reverence. They're in a state of, deep respect, a profound respect for the words of Kaykusus Abdel, Pir Sultan Abdel, Yunus Emre, or Abul Hasan al-Shushtari, or, Mevlana. They are, I was just talking about this downstairs, promoting them, preserving them, and looking at them in the right way is so important in our era, because our identity, our sense of who we are, the language itself is based on art, poetry. So East and West, I've had a profound love affair with classical music, traditional music of different traditions from a young age. And my genre of music is world music traditions. It was very important for me, and I always incorporate traditional instruments. You're not going to find a keyboard or something like that. It's always going to be traditional. We have 74 musicians in Yeni Kapı, and it's all traditional. From Azerbaijan, from Turkey, from Andalusia, from Spain, flamenco influences from China. Going to be really exciting. I'm very excited for it.
Talking about your crew and orchestra, it is pretty unique, and we didn't see such a thing like in another orchestra. How do you guys get together, or what do you think about this? How do you feel about your orchestra?
So these wonderful musicians are the result of research and making contact and working together, and then you develop on that. It gets bigger, and you bring more musicians, and they have recommendations. But generally speaking, it's important to know that my role is generally as a composer. I'm directing musicians, and my voice is an instrument. I don't insist on singing everywhere or a lot, unless there's a need for it. it's like a portrait. Even food, in a kind of superficial, as a superficial example, no, it's not that superficial. If you add a little bit too much of something here, right, it's okay, but maybe it's not, it's not exactly as the Michelin chef would want it to be, right? So it's all about the composition, it's all about the music, and I, work with some of the best musicians. I'm so fortunate. And also here in Turkey, we have some great soloists as well, some wonderful soloists from Turkey and from different parts of the world. I hope that answers your question. I really hope.
Yeah, it was really good, and we are so lucky to have this experience in here, Turkey. Thank you so much for this.
I have one question. Spirituality is strongly present in your songs. How do you see the connection between art and spirituality?
Honestly, real art, true art, is spiritual. It's not art otherwise, for me. Like if you walk into the Blue Mosque, just walk inside, or Hagia Sophia, you don't need anybody to explain anything to you. You don't need some curator or, what the artist meant here was that this, you just experience, you immediately experience this art, right? It is art. It's a sacred art. And it's the same for music. In music, when you listen to the Turkish tanbur, or the ney, or the kanun, you don't need anybody to explain things to you. It is immediate. It's an experience, right? So I'm not obviously a big fan of modern art. It's not my cup of tea. So I believe that true art is never void of spirituality, and the purest art is always the most spiritual. So, and the same goes for music. I always prefer to, if I listen to music, I prefer to listen to authentic, pure, without all the preservatives and, all the, I'd rather just listen to a ney, just a ney solo on its own, or the human voice, or if it's classical music, I prefer to listen to Bach or, something to that effect, Baroque music, classical music. So, but even carpets, rugs, everything, khat, calligraphy, architecture, Ebru art, for example, all traditional, I challenge you, honestly, go and find any traditional art that isn't spiritual.
Yes. This question is a little bit personal because I'm listening to your music since I was like 5.
Wow.
And right now I'm listening to this very strongly. I'm a very good fan, I can say.
Thank you so much.
And so the other people in Turkey and around the world too. How do you feel about this? Why people listening to your music for the longest time this strongly and this passionately? What is the key to your success?
I am really humbled, honestly, because my background, I became famous through a different kind of music. And I basically left music at the height of my success, so to speak, commercial success. And I left it to go and study. And I found teachers, and for a couple of years, I was just researching, studying, going inward. I was traveling inward and studying more about metaphysics and philosophy and tradition and traditional music, what it means, and soul searching really. And I remember one of my teachers in America, he said to me, I have one piece of advice for you, just one. This is my last will, my last word to you, so to speak. Follow traditional music. Go towards traditional music.
So your life changed.
It changed my life, and many people thought that it was a great gamble, that I would become irrelevant and utterly, go into oblivion and totally. And I knew deep down in my heart that this was my destiny, and this was what I needed to do, because there's no point doing something that you don't love, and it's not from the heart, and you believe in from your soul. So that teacher changed my life, actually. And I'm indebted to him for his advice. And he said to me, how many albums do you sell? I said, I don't know. I really didn't. I just said a number. I think it's like this much. And then he said, sell a fraction of that, but follow traditional music. I still remember his words. I said, and this is where having a teacher is so important. Finding someone, a mentor, or someone who can guide you not based on commercial sensibilities, but what is true, what is correct. And I did this, and I'm honored. This is a maktub, as they say in Arabic. It's a blessing from God. It's something that I feel very honored about. And to be honest with you, my dream is to be a reason for a young boy or a young girl, for example, in Turkey, to know Yunus Emre's poetry.
And you succeed. This
is an honor for me. This is my honor. For someone in India to know Boulay Shah. For someone in Morocco, for a young boy, young girl, someone, the youth in Morocco, to know Al-Shushtur, Ibn al-Farid, right? The great poets of the medieval period, right? There is one of the functions of these traditional artists is to keep the language alive, keep the culture alive. And this isn't just preservation, but it's also preservation and innovation. Tradition is not dead. Traditional music in Turkey is alive. Sanat is alive. This Turk sanat, classical Turkish music is so beautiful. You hear the voice. Oh, as soon as you hear the dam, it's taking you to another world, right? That immediate it's something, right? It does something to you. It's experiential, as we were talking about. But some people think that traditional music is just worshipping relics. It's just it's just stuff that came from the past. That's not correct. You are also, for example, you love traditional art, traditional painting, Ebru art, for example. You take that, it's like a chain, okay? Let me explain it this way. You have the chain, and you add one chain, right, as well. One little ring to the chain, so you become part of that. So that's my honor. That's a great thing that I feel very proud of, and honored is a better word, to be able to be the reason for someone to memorize the poetry, or to have the words of the great awliya and the great saints and great people from all the traditions, to know who they are.
And can we say that that's why you choose traditional music?
Yeah, it's my calling. I take my work very seriously, very, 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 maybe too seriously for some. It's very serious for me, to such a degree that I just focus on that. I don't do this venture and that venture and this venture and different. No, I'm just focusing on this area because that is my area, my focus. The thing that I can do well. The thing that the Creator has blessed me with. And for me, this is a way of also knowing. I'm also experiencing very high levels of, spirituality myself when I'm with the team, when we're together, when we're performing. So it's definitely a great honor.
So what you feel, we feel that too.
Allah razı olsun. Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Please.
What do you think is the greatest missing element in today's music industry?
Right. You mentioned industry, right? Any industry is going to be based on commerce. It's to do with selling, right? And there's not necessarily a dirty word, in itself. It's just the reality is we are up against a tide that is it's going in the other way. It's going against you. And pop music is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's in the mall. It's anywhere you go. You're going to hear that, the Taylor Swifts and the pop songs, and right. It's a reality. And I think that when I have one artist, his name is Ahmet Yağmur. He's performing with us. He's a young gentleman. And I was telling him today how proud I am of him. He's so young, I think early 20s. Beautiful voice, and really also, he has this aura, he has charisma. And it makes me so happy to see young people, right, singing classical music. Really, to the point where I just want to go and give them a hug. I just feel so honored, feel so happy. Traditional music it's so important, right? That without it, it's pure darkness for me. Total. And reason for that is the Turkish that you and I'm not so good as you, I understand better, but the Turkish that you speak, why do you speak? Who said that you should understand each other? On what basis? It's because of the poets. It's because of the great seven, great poets of the Yunus Emre and Kaykusus Abdel and Pir Sultan Abdel and the great poets, right? They're divans, right? Same in Italy. Why do people in Italy speak Italian? It's because of the poetry of Dante, his work, right? That's how, before they were speaking Latin, but what was the consensus for them to suddenly speak Italian, right? It's because of Dante. And the same for the Persian language. Ferdowsi is the reason why you have a Persian. People can speak, communicate, they know each other. They have understanding, they have a way to know, a way to understand, right? Art and music go poetry and music go hand in hand. And this music is so important. It's so important. Preserving these instruments and getting people, inspiring them to pick up these instruments is so important because it's the very fabric of society, of who you are,
And I think the young generation wants to embrace their culture to a lot of people, but they cannot find a way or a place to do that.
Right.
So giving them this place, this era is so important. Going there, embracing, like I said, this music, this art is such a great thing and huge thing because this is who we are.
So
Our
true.
names. My name's Persian. So what would I say? I'm not an American person, so listening to American music wouldn't give my identity exactly. So you're so
It's
right.
interesting, also in America they have a traditional music, right? They have something called country music, not the pop one, not the commercial one, but they have some, there's also Native American music. They have this amazing drum, and they have a dance. It's so beautiful. But, also we have to train our ears because this music, it's not the 5-second hook, Spotify to hook you in, and you have to give your ears time to appreciate it. You have to give a little bit of time because, it's dense. It comes across as dense. It's not dense, but it comes across like Abdelkader Maraghi's work. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Music. First time you hear it, right, it's like, for a modern ear, it's like, okay. Second time, you're like, it's nice. Third time you hear it, this is quite beautiful. Fourth time you hear it, fifth time, sixth time, you start entering into a world. Because it takes time. You need to train. It's like unlearning and learning again. You have to train the ears, train the soul, training the heart to appreciate those sounds, to appreciate those things. It takes time. It's not going to come overnight. But I'm so hopeful for the young generation. Honestly, it's such an amazing, in many ways, there's a lot of difficulty, a lot of darkness in the world. There's also a lot of light. There's so much positivity and so much to feel happy about,
My mother always says, what you give to your ears, your heart's gonna take it. So we have to give our hearts the best food from our ears, like we say.
So true, so true.
A little bit personal question.
Right.
We hear about backstage requests from world famous artists before their concerts, and your requests for just tea, quite a stir, exactly in Turkey. And what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I also have requests. I also have, it's not just tea. Dealing with 74 musicians and all this, there's a lot of technical things there But my personal requests are very minimal. I don't need much. I'm very low maintenance. But I have to thank the organizers, in Turkey. They're so kind, so much. They're just above and beyond, really. They've gone above and beyond with their hospitality and kindness. But
And you like tea also, like us.
I love Turkish tea, yeah.
And tea is not a request, it's a must.
It's a must, yeah. It's so true.
And this question is, what do you think can be done about the oppression in Palestine?
Pray. Praying and going, this is a difficult question. Ask anybody and they're going to be lost for words. How do you talk about this, right? I myself, from my adult life, I've been involved with the Palestinian cause since I was a kid. And I've always, publicly and privately, I've even gone there. I met my brothers and sisters there. I'm connected to that. We have to also be careful, not to lose you don't want to lose your sanity, your mental health over it, because people, when you let hate come over you, when it consumes you, it brings out the worst in us. The worst. And remember the wisdom that came to us, that when you're angry, what should you do? Make ablution, abdest, right? Calm down, then lie down. Be calm, right? It's very difficult. It's a human catastrophe. All the genocide scholars, even in Israel, have said, Israeli scholars have said, this is a genocide. There's no doubt about that. And in my capacity, I can only do what I can through music and art. This is my area of focus. I'm not an expert on geopolitics. I'm not a politician. I'm not an activist. I'm not someone who is very even knowledgeable about this. There are people who do much better job than me talking about it. But it's a human catastrophe, a failure, a human failure to see what's happening. And my wife also, she's always telling me, don't look, because it's very hard on the soul. It's very hard on the heart. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. And just imagine what it's like there, what they're going through. I also think that in my capacity as an artist, as a composer, one area I found that is very helpful is to help with the music, believe it or not. Because in addition to the genocide taking place, there's also a genocide on the culture, on ethnic cleansing and destruction of the culture and the music and the heritage and complete erasure, erasing the people. So I'm dealing with some musicians there. They live in a tent in Gaza, and he's a musician, and he goes around, teaches Palestinian songs, and it's very, very important in my capacity as a musician, as someone who's in that field, to encourage that, to work with them, to collaborate with them, and to support them also financially in every way possible. And everyone has to do what they can. We have to do what we can and pray and spread positivity. And this is a very difficult subject. Very difficult subject.
Thank you for your answer. It was very beautiful.
And the last question is, GZT is the largest digital media brand in Turkey.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes, we have millions of followers and
Wow,
subscribers in
amazing,
Turkey. And if you could send a single message to young people, what would it be?
GZT, thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for the interview, and lots of love to you all.
Thank you so much for your answers.
Thank
It
you.
was
Allah
very
razı
lovely.
olsun. Thank you so much.